So, welcome to the Solution Show. Bring the soul back into your life, health, relationships, and business. I'm Davindra Ojala, the Lightworker Coach, and I'm your host for the day. Now, I've got the wonderful Leanne Lisbon with us today to have a soulful conversation on this sofa. So, pull up a meditation cushion, stay a while. And Leanne is the CEO and founder of Mind Over Muffin. Good morning, Leanne.
Good morning. Well, evening here, but good morning for you.
Oh, of course. And where are you?
I'm in Perth, Australia. So it's, evening time. Mm-hmm.
Lovely. And what's the weather like there?
It's actually raining today, which is very unusual for this time of year. We've had like a random day of rain. Usually it's like brilliant sunshine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's refreshing. Well, we've actually got a good day today. We've got the sunshine. It's come over here.
A bit changed.
Yeah, so I'm super grateful that you are able to join us, because I know you've got so many tips and tools that you're going to be able to share with our listeners today. And Leanne, I think I met you a couple of years ago, and it was such a beautiful connection, and I could feel your radiance and your energy. So this is going to be such a joy for us to have this time together. So yes. So firstly, we've got to start Mind Over Muffin. I just love that name.
That's so good. That's the response like I wanted from people was It's fun, it's light, it's, what is it? So that's great. I love it.
Absolutely. So Mind Over Muffin, what is it?
So it is my little baby, my business baby. And it is all about helping women overcome emotional eating, learn to love themselves and their bodies again. A lot of women do want to lose weight, but we do it in a really different way. So it's not food focused or, strict diet focused. But it's learning to really kind of heal yourself from the inside out so you can feel confident, comfortable in your body, heal your relationship with food. Weight loss may be a wonderful ripple effect of that. But it's all about coming home to you and really feeling connected to you and in control around food and the way you feel about your body.
Absolutely. And how long has the business been going now?
As Mind Over Muffin, it must be coming up to 3 years, I reckon.
Wonderful. Yeah. And is there a personal reason, or what made you decide this was the route you were going to take as a career woman? What was the spark? What made you go, right, I'm going for it?
Yeah, so just came out of my personal experience and story. So I struggled for years with emotional eating, binge eating. I put on a lot of weight, but I didn't actually realize at the time that what I was doing was emotional eating. So I just started to see the weight pile on and thought that I had a weight problem. I had an issue with food. I did the whole, Googling every diet out there, did the restriction, the deprivation. And I didn't like I'd lose a little bit of weight, then I'd put it all back on. I'd lose a bit, I'd put it back on. And that just became my cycle. I became like obsessed with food, calorie content, fat content. Food took over my life. And I just hit a point where I was like, I don't know what to do. And I felt really, really low. I'd been through like some stuff in my past. I'd just come out of a relationship that didn't end very well. I had a ton of emotion that I didn't know how to deal with. And so food was essentially, I guess, my coping mechanism. It was my distraction. It was my comfort. It was my little moment of happiness. So I actually went to work with someone to help me just with how I was feeling. It wasn't to do with weight loss or anything like that. But they took me through this process where we cleared all the emotion that I was feeling. We worked on my beliefs of feeling like I wasn't good enough, and my confidence came back. I felt like me again, and the emotional eating just stopped. The weight started to drop off, and that was my light bulb moment of this was never about the food. This was all about me. Like the food was just a mirror. And then I was like, I need to share this. And that's where it came from.
Absolutely. So what challenges did you face when you decided to mold this into a creative venture and take it out to the world? What was the first year in business like?
A roller coaster.
Yeah.
I felt like I was winging it the whole time. But I think the biggest one, I'd say there's two biggest challenges. Number one was that I had this like passion and desire to help other people. So I went and got qualified in what I needed to, and I had these amazing tools, but then that didn't necessarily mean I knew how to build a business. And you just kind of feel like, well, I just put it out there and people will come, and so that was a big challenge, that I had to realize that actually I've gone and put all this time into studying this amazing modality and these tools, but actually now I need to learn how to do business, and that's totally okay.
Yeah.
So that was a big one. But then also just being seen, being out there, being seen, being visible. So I guess even that still continued to help me on my own journey, of knowing it's okay to be out there. And I think I felt like for a long time that I'd seen all these other women in business and seen them like, all this energy and like on stage and doing all this stuff. And it's like, right, I need to be like that. And that's just not me. I have my own way of being, but I'm not this kind of out the front type of person. So
Yeah.
I think that took me a little while to realize that actually I can just do this in my way, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
So once I made peace with that, things started to really flow, because then I was just being authentic to me and not trying to be someone else. So yeah, I'd say those were my biggest challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you touched on that, because in fact, emotions are so key to business. To be able to master your energy, to be able to master your emotions, because so often we see a business as something that's external to us, rather than understand it's going to show up our relationship with ourselves. That is,
oh yeah.
absolutely, that is what it's going to be highlighting. So I'm really curious, because I'm maybe projecting here, but I know my experience and many of my clients' experiences. When we started our business, because I suffered an eating disorder from the age of about 14, and it was something that took me years to overcome, because I was trying to fix the external. So I was trying to control what I ate, and I was trying to manage the external world, and hadn't really come to the realization that actually it was something deeper within me that needed addressing, within my emotions, my mind. So I was very much in control of what looked like a perfect, healthy person. Yet my emotions were a roller coaster, and I had no way of being able to ride the waves in a natural way. I was very up against the waves all the time. I felt as if I was out to sea forever. So did you find that when you decided to transition to make your hobby and your natural gifts, your life lessons into a business, did it bring up deeper emotions and again knock you into old habits? What was the first year like, or did it give you more grounding and rooting?
I feel like it challenged me in every possible way. If I'm honest, I feel like I had never thought that when you get into business, like I really think it's one of the biggest personal development journeys, spiritual journeys, like you can go on. Like I feel like every step of the way there is going to be something there to challenge you. And I think a big thing for everyone, and myself included, was just fear. Like at every level there's fear, and you just, every time you get over one hurdle, you're like, that's it, that's got to be it. And then there's another one, and there's another one. So I think from the journey I'd been on before with food and my body and things like that, I feel like I had a good grounding in myself. which really supported me through that. But even regardless, like having that, things still came up. And I think I'd say the majority of my stuff was definitely fear-based. And, you know, it still comes up now and again. You know, today I feel like business-wise, you just have to make friends with fear, you know. And I always say to the ladies I work with, like, your relationship with food it's just a mirror of what is happening inside. And I think it's the same with business. You know, if you're hitting a tough point in business, or something's not flowing, or clients aren't coming, or so, you know, whatever the issue is, then it's actually not trying to fix it out here. It's actually just, what is this showing? What is it that I need to work on, or what do I need to overcome, or why is this block happening in me? And I think that's been the biggest lesson for me, or the one that maybe took me the longest to learn, but now I've got that awareness. Every block I come up against, it's just, okay, cool, what is this? Like, what needs to shift here so I can grow in myself to move through this block that's happening externally, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so for those listening who feel, okay, one or two things, most of the listeners and women in the group are either running their own businesses or are inspired to start a new business. For those of them that are at that point where they feel, okay, the fear is starting to kick in, how might that show itself in relationship to food? And what?
So, as in, if the women who are looking to start a business, if it is showing up in food for them, is that how you mean?
Yes.
Oh, that's a good question. So I would say one of the main reasons that people use food is as a distraction, as a coping mechanism, as a procrastination tool.
Yes.
So the minute you are reaching outside of yourself for something, that could be food, it could be cigarettes, it could be wine, it could be social media scrolling for hours, it could be binge watching Netflix. It's using all those things as that mirror to go, right, what is actually happening here? And so you might not recognize it as fear initially. You might just see it show up in, why have I just eaten a whole multi-pack of crisps or something, you know, why have I just eaten 10 biscuits? Yeah. But then something I always talk about is, you know, it's more important. There is still a lot of value in what you eat. I take a lot of care of what food I put in my body. But in terms of the emotional and mindset side, it's more important to look at, well, why am I doing that? So I think fear can be a massive driver. You know, if you are about to start a business, there's a lot of fear. It could be that you turn to food to make yourself feel better in that moment, or it could be a distraction, or it could be something that, you know, food has given you comfort in the past, or it's like a conditioned kind of thing as from being a kid. You know, we don't realize how easily implanted that is, that food makes you happy, food makes, you know, gives you comfort. So it could be an easy thing that you reach for in a time that you do feel fear. So I guess if anyone does catch themselves going for the food, it's just always, well, why am I doing that? What's the purpose of me doing that right now? Is it because I'm feeling scared? Is it because I feel a bit overwhelmed? And it's just knowing that the food is never going to give you what you truly need in that moment. What you need to do is just do the thing that you're fearing and do the inner work, I guess.
Absolutely.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, because I think procrastination is something that comes up hugely for business women, and they don't often link it with realizing when they're procrastinating, they are going externally for distractions. And when we can be much more mindful of where we're going to, just that simple awareness of, okay, I'm going back to the fridge, or I'm going for another cup of tea or another coffee. Because I remember going through a phase of I would have about 12 peppermint teas a day. And it always came at the point when I started recognizing the pattern. Was normally I'd have about 3 peppermint teas a day. And I started to realize that when I went to the point of having about 10 peppermint teas, it meant there was fear within me, and I was trying to avoid that fear. But the beautiful thing about it was I started to realize that if I started to use the tools to stay with that fear and ride through the fears, there was always a breakthrough in my business. And I hadn't seen it positively. I'd always seen it as in I have a problem which I have to fix, rather than realize, no, there's a birthing and a creation that wants to happen through you. And when I was able to change my mindset to going, okay, I've got a problem I need to fix, to, oh no, there's going to be a birth and a creation which I'm scared of birthing, it allowed me to love myself and accept what I was doing and let that go much more.
I love that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I think, like, we cannot grow without that challenge. And I think that's what people forget, is they want all the growth in business, but a lot of people are not prepared to go through the challenge that it takes to create that growth, you know?
Yeah.
So that's exactly what you just said.
Totally. So why do you think, because I believe there's about 3 or 4 things that block us or stop us stepping into our power, our worth and our potential, which is where we really want to be. And one of them is not wanting to feel uncomfortable. Why do you feel that is? Why are we so conditioned to run from feeling uncomfortable? And is it really uncomfortable?
Yeah. So I reckon there's an element of, like, it is how our brains are wired. So if we literally go to, like, how the brain is made up, like we want to stay safe. Like, we want to be in our little safe comfort zone. So the minute anything, like, your mind perceives any kind of thing that creates fear as a danger, like, it doesn't know the difference between, are we about to be attacked, or, you know, is this just, I'm about to put my first Facebook post out and I'm terrified. It doesn't kind of know the difference. So I think there's an element of just how we're actually wired and made up. And I think that sends off like alarm bells in the brain, which send signals to the body, and it can feel like it's paralyzing. And I think to a certain extent, still kind of going along that theme, that especially in business, when you are, I know like a lot of women worry about kind of when they first put their business out there, and, you know, but what about all the people that know me as I am, and then I'm going to be doing this new thing, and it's kind of that fear of stepping out of what you know and the safety of that, and like the doing something different, being seen in a different way. And again, we can relate that almost back to like tribal times. If we were the odd one out, you're probably going to die, you're not going to survive on your own. So that, again, the brain is like, I'm going to be alone, and, you know, so I reckon there's elements of that. And will you repeat the question, Davinda?
Well, I think you've answered it really, absolutely, really well, because I think we can give ourselves such a hard time and make it personal, that, oh, I'm not progressing, or I've done this wrong, or I'm not where I should be, rather than realizing we are at the mercy of the conditioning that's been passed down to us by society, ancestors. So give ourselves a break, because if we're feeling stuck or hitting that invisible wall, it's not our fault. And the moment, hey, this isn't personal, this isn't about me, but this is, how can I evolve this? And this is where it starts to get exciting rather than destructive. Because at times I've seen it start to become destructive, and you have to be really, really tender and loving and kind with yourself within business, because there are so many challenges. So the primal stuff can be really frustrating sometimes, because it does take time, because when the mind is in that fight flight, you can't push or force your way through that using that yang energy. So we have to trust ourselves to move through that process, because it does take time for the momentum of whatever that belief is to slow down and start to steer in a different direction. So
Yes.
do you have any tips or tools for dealing with fear? One of the ones which works pretty well for me now is I used to always go fear, oh shit, run. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. And this was my conditioning, was if there's fear, run. And so each time I fear, it was like, oh, Devinder's off. Where's Devinder gone? I was just running and running and running. And I could really see how that was blocking my life from love. Because when you break through fear, you experience more love. That is the gift and the gold through the journey of fear. And it wasn't until I was in enough pain of not having the love in my life for myself and receiving and giving the block of love that I realized I've got to learn how to move through fear if I want to open to more and more love. And this is what really drove my soul and my business. It was my desire to be more love on the planet, to be a light worker. And so one thing I used to always say to myself is when fear comes up, that's a message from spirit, source, consciousness to say, lean into your power. And so... And so it helped me reframe it. And that really was a game changer for me. It changed so much because the response in my body was different, because the brain was now thinking about it in a different way. So there wasn't the huge resistance that used to come up. How do you deal with fear? Do you have any tools or go-to tips or techniques?
One quite similar that I use, just where you said about reframing. So I will, have you heard the quote? I think it's Gay Hendricks in his book,
The Big Leap.
The Big Leap. And he says that fear is excitement without the breath. And so,
say that again.
So fear is excitement without the breath. So there is actually a very fine line in the body where you feel fear and where you feel excitement. So if we get really excited, we can feel that like in your tummy, can't you? Like it can almost feel like a little bit nervous. So they say if you can just breathe into it, you will transform fear into excitement. And what I do is take that a step further, and I will, whatever it is I'm fearing, so I pay attention to the language that I'm using internally, because we know that is creating how you feel. It creates your actions and creates your reality. So I will reframe it. So if I'm like really nervous to, I don't know, give a presentation, I will change it to, I'm so excited to give this presentation. And it sounds so simple, but it's so effective. So I'm so excited to do that thing. And even if you don't quite believe it or feel it yet, just keep saying it. And I find that really helps. And another thing that really supports me is that when I'm getting caught in fear, it's usually when I am almost in a way judging myself. Am I going to be good enough? Can I do it? Is this going to work? And when I can just kind of let go of that and connect more to, why am I doing this? Like there is a greater purpose here than me. Like, you know, there's something, this post that I put out or this video or, you know, whatever it is, there's someone out there that needs to hear that today. And for me, that seems to work. It makes it, this isn't about my fear. This is about that person and the help. And I think it just connects you to why you're doing it and gets you more connected to your vision and your mission and kind of that impact you want to make. And that really helps get me over that.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm so glad you reminded me of that, actually, because I remember reading that book and loving that book. And that's such a great tool as well, because it's interesting, fear and excitement. I used to say with my clients when they used to embark on perhaps a high ticket coaching program with me, and if I could feel and sense they were in doubt, I would ask them one question. Because really, when we take on clients, we want them to be fully aligned with that decision, because we attract that back otherwise. And so one question I would always say to them when they were in that place where I could feel the doubt was, feel into it. And if you feel fear and real resistance, now is not your time. If you feel fear with excitement, now is your time.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a great pointer to decision making, because decision making and making the right decisions is so important when we go for food, when we go for decision making in business or relationships. It all comes back to us, our decisions. And when we come from a place of, okay, I'm going to make this new choice or new decision, does it come from a place of fear with that excitement and that juiciness, or is it fear and the block? So that's where we really know when we're stepping into our power, because if it's that fear and excitement, we can step into the power. But if there's fear and we feel stuck, that's when I say reach out for a therapist. That's where you need some support to do some shoveling.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Juicy. Okay. So in Fierce Focus Feminine, we are discussing self-trust. What is self-trust? Do we trust ourselves? Can we trust ourselves? Is it possible to ever really fully trust ourselves? And how do we start to build self-trust if we've betrayed ourselves, if we've hurt ourselves, or if we've been betrayed? I'd love to know your thoughts on this conversation we're having.
So I think it is definitely possible to trust ourselves. I think it can be an ongoing journey for sure. I think when you said about if we have betrayed ourselves, I think we have a tendency to, as women, well, probably our men, but I work with a lot of women, so I see it a lot, to be very hard on ourselves for the things that have happened, we have done, the things that have gone on in our past. And something that's really helped me on my journey is just knowing that everything you have been through that has led you to this point, whether we perceive that as negative or positive, it has just been perfect. Like, it is meant to have happened. Everything is happening in divine time. It has led you to where you are now, so you can work through this, and so you can have that breakthrough. So if you can start to look back on those times and actually, and it's not going to happen overnight, but if you can start to kind of show them, event some love and be the gratitude and being thankful for those experiences that have led you to who you are now, and will actually, like, I believe some of our hardest, darkest times are where our biggest lessons come from, that provide us with the most strength or the tools we need for the future. We might not see it at the time, but I think at some point we will get that message. So I think it comes, I think trusting ourselves is very closely linked to loving ourselves. We have to be able to love every part of us and our past and our future. And
Yeah, absolutely. So what is the block to self-love? Is it purely self-judgment?
I think self-judgment is definitely a big part of it. Yeah, I would say so. I think comparison is a big thing that women do too, whether we're talking business, whether we're talking physically in our bodies, in terms of success, we constantly compare ourselves. And I think that stops us just connecting to us, and knowing that, obviously working with a lot of women in terms of body confidence and self-love in that respect.
Yeah.
We can look at everyone else and feel like they have better legs than me, they have this, they have that. And actually, someone could be looking at you thinking the exact same thing, like, I wish I had your body. And we just go round. And I think the minute you can start to just fully start accepting, loving you, that's where you can then start to trust you. Like, you've got to have your own back, like you should be able to fully depend on yourself and trust yourself. So I think there's definitely a process and definitely a journey, and I'm pretty sure I'm still on mine, but I think it's
I absolutely love that, and I resonate with that. I really resonate with that, because I do believe that when we are comparing ourselves to other women, which is so easy to do, so easy to do, you know, it starts off as from little girls, we all start comparing ourselves and being told by society how we should look, how our body should look, what colour our hair should be, what size our body should be. There's so much bombardment from the media, which is crippling to our creativity. And we really have to step out of that matrix to step into our own uniqueness, because it's only from our own uniqueness that we have that creative gift that gives us joy as well as everybody else. And I do believe when we start to compare ourselves, we are coming out to the world with a lack belief that there's lack within me. And for me, that's always an alarm bell, because then you are not living in an abundant universe. You're going to keep attracting pain, suffering, and lack back. And so when we can break free of that self-comparison by going, okay, this is a lack belief going on here, and addressing that, shifts and transforms. Because I find, because trust is one of the, I'd probably say, the foundational pieces I use with my clients for sure. Whatever we're working on, whether it's their business, their relationship, their spiritual growth, it's at the end of the day, without that foundation of love and self-trust and building that, everything else will just keep falling apart. You may be able to grow it using your energy and your will, but it won't be sustainable long term, because trust is so closely linked to confidence. And without confidence, you will not have the energy and the will to continue on this journey. They go hand in hand, trust and confidence. And I there was something I wrote the other day, which was, for me, self-trust is what happens when we come into full connection with our souls, when the personality comes into full connection with the soul's needs, desires, and wants. That's trust. Because often we try and build that trust from the person. And the person itself, in actual fact, doesn't really exist. This is the conditioned aspect of ourselves. But when we align this conditioned aspect, which is slightly fragmented and off track because of society, we align that person with the soul's needs and desires. We have trust, because we can trust our soul. We can trust our higher self. But I sure as hell can't trust the personality and the conditioning.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I feel like when we let our beliefs and blocks and judgments and everything get in the way, we're essentially lowering our vibrational frequency, which shuts off that connection to our higher self. So I think that's probably an element of it as well. But I love that. Yeah,
Absolutely. God, I could talk to you for hours and hours. I love talking about vibrational frequency and lifting our vibration, because self-love and trust is such a high vibrational frequency and a magnet to attract amazing, gorgeous things to us. So to complete, a couple of questions. What would you advise to somebody who finds they are going into the fridge and know they are procrastinating and diving into the bags of crisps or the fudge or whatever that's in the fridge, or sitting in the evening watching Netflix and just caught up in the trap of food? What would you say to them? They want to get out of it. They're in this trap where they know they're not in control of their food. The food is controlling them. What would be the first step?
So the first step, I believe, is always awareness. So we cannot change anything unless we're aware of what we're doing. And a lot of people around food, it's become such a conditioned habit that they run that they're not actually even conscious that they're doing it. So often people will get through the whole packet of whatever and suddenly like, oh, where did that go? I didn't even know I was doing it. So I think the first step is becoming aware. Like, really, the more kind of mindful you can be in every moment, you're going to catch yourself running these habits and behaviors. If it is something you're doing regularly, even simple little things. I always get my ladies starting out by just putting a little post-it on the fridge or the cupboard or something that is just different to what they're used to seeing, because if it's happening on its own, we just need to interrupt. Oh, there's a post-it. It doesn't even need to say anything on it. It can do. But just do something different that is going to wake your brain up, because your unconscious mind is just running on autopilot. The second step is always then looking at, well, why am I doing it? What is the intention behind this? And it's as simple as asking that question. Why am I doing this? I know I'm not hungry. Food should be there to fuel my body and nourish me. If I'm using it for any other reason, then it's being driven by emotion, or, you know, I'm trying to distract myself or cope with something. So why am I doing it? Ask that question, see what comes up. If it's procrastination, then actually look at, well, what is it that I am putting off doing? Because food isn't going to help me get the job done. So, you know, if you've got a list of business, like a kind of to-do list for business, and I find for me, I will put the thing that scares me the most at the top of the day, and I will get it done. Because otherwise I'll do all the little things that I can just tick off nice and easily and feel like, yeah, I've really achieved something today, but I still haven't done that one thing that's scaring me. So put the big thing at the beginning of the day, get it done, and then you'll get through all the other stuff. So yeah, little tip on food, little tip on procrastination.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So if it is deeper, so I'll give you an example. So with me, I found when I was moving to my next level of abundance and receiving more money coming into the business, I would go slam back down and find I started nibbling, eating food that I didn't even like. And at one point it was turned to, you're a vegan. Why have you just... You've been a vegan for a long time. Why are you eating that cheesy pizza that you don't even like? And for me, it was really something is going on here. And what I came to realize was, in actual fact, it was a belief. And the belief that was running was from a painful experience in childhood, that there wasn't enough for me and my sisters. And I didn't realize how that one belief in childhood made me feel that I should go without and have less, and was impacting me and blocking my business, but showing up in food.
Yeah. It's like, how is this pizza related to my business? But there it is.
Absolutely, absolutely. So is that the kind of transformational work you will carry and go through with your clients?
So I find that everything we are experiencing now has come from somewhere in the past. You know, it is a belief system, it is a conditioned response, it's a habit that was programmed years ago. So yeah, that's the exact thing we look for. You know, if someone is using food for comfort or a distraction or whatever that purpose is, we can trace that back. It usually goes back to childhood somewhere. You know, there was a decision that was made in one moment, and that like plants a seed for this pattern, and it might not come out until 10 years later. You know, it might not, emotional eating might not be a problem for a while, but there will come a point where something will trigger it. It might be a big challenge, it might be a lot of fear, it could be a really sad event that happens, and the mind will go, how do I cope with this? How do I deal with it? And that little seed that was planted that said food gives you comfort, or food, you know, whatever it is, will be triggered. And we will just, the mind will run that pattern. So yeah, that's a lot of the work that we do, is looking at, why is this happening? Where has it come from? And it's not necessarily about, you know, I hear some coaches talking about like, rip out those beliefs and, you know, get rid of them. That belief served its purpose. You know, it served you in a really positive way. I know the result of it might not feel that positive, but it had a positive intention. So it's just looking at, how can we transform that into something more.
Yeah. And it's beyond, transformational work is beyond powerful. And it's great that we do have these little signs around us. So if we are emotional eaters, starting to look at, this is an opportunity rather than something going wrong or I'm wrong, because it can explode with beauty and good stuff, because this was something I really didn't want to have to go into. But when I did go into it, and again, my coach taught me to reframe that with saying there is more than enough for me and my sisters. And knowing that there's more than enough for me and my sisters meant I could open myself to receiving without the old guilt, because it was the guilt that I was suppressing down and going for the food because I didn't want to have to feel the guilt. And the food was giving me the temporary illusion of I'm giving myself something which feels good and nice, but I wasn't actually getting what I really wanted. So yeah, beautiful. Oh, it's been such a pleasure, Leanne, to have this conversation with you. And thank you so much for some incredible tips and tools that we can use. So for anybody listening who knows they are experiencing emotional eating, or would like some more information, or to work with you, or to connect with you, how can they reach you? And what do you offer?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook. It's just Mind Over Muffin by Leanne Lisbon. I'm on Instagram as well, just Mind Over Muffin. If you are looking for some little tools that can kind of kickstart your journey, then I do have a free 5-day emotional eating challenge. So it's just a little training each day that will give you just some new ways of thinking about how to, you know, like we were talking about, discover why you're doing it. Because even that, you know, in itself, the awareness of why you're running those habits can be the game changer. So that can be found on my Instagram bio if anyone would like to join.
Brilliant. And that's Leanne Lisbon. So we'll put a link to that in the group as well. So there's a free gift there for you guys. So do connect with the lovely Leanne. And is that a community? Because I do find community when we are going through emotional eating and experiences like that, it can be so vulnerable and emotionally challenging that we need the safety and support.
Yes, so there is the challenge takes place in, it's just called the Break Free from Emotional Eating group on Facebook. So there is, we've got a group there of women all kind of working through it, and it's a great space for you to ask any questions, and where it's safe and private.
Yeah, lovely, brilliant. Thank you, Leanne. So to finish off briefly, what would you say is the golden piece of wisdom or nugget you would like to leave our listeners today that are dealing with emotional eating?
I would say that firstly, be kind to yourself, because you don't actually have a problem with food or your weight or your body. It is simply just a mirror. If you can start to use those behaviors and habits that are playing out around food, and you can use it as a mirror, and you can just go, okay, this is happening, but why? What does this mean about me? Or what is it I need to work on or to learn or to resolve? And just focus on that. You don't have to go and be on a restrictive, controlled diet. You just have to do the inner work. I believe that the change has to come from within before the physical element is going to change. I think there's more to kind of healing your relationship with food and weight loss than just the physical aspect. I think we easily forget about the emotional and the spiritual and the mental side. So I guess my golden nugget would be just to start looking at it in a completely different way. And use it as a mirror.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Leanne. So fabulous conversation with Leanne today. So for those of you that are interested in finding out more, do subscribe to the Soullution Show. So this is where I'm going to be interviewing one inspiring and empowering individual, and we're going to be sharing tips and tools to help you help you transform your life, your health, relationships, and your business too. We have a wonderful community, fierce, focused, and feminine. And this is specifically for female entrepreneurs, coaches, healers, light workers that are ready to step into their greater versions and really honor the new divine feminine energy that's coming into the planet, because we want fun, we want joy, we want more wealth, we want more freedom, we want it all as women. So we're here to support one another and see each other grow. So come join that group on Facebook, and I will look forward to connecting with you all on our next episode. So the website, if you want more details, is www.thelightworkercoach.com. Have a fabulous week, and me and Leanne send you lots of love and light, and namaste.
Namaste. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining us, Leanne. So the light within us honors the light within all of you.